All right, everyone. We've got a very scared baby cat, and we've got a lecture to finish. Let's do this. So, we left off talking about some of the neural correlates that go along with spirituality. And if we pick up on slide 23, it just kind of talks about how, at the end of the day, we can know a lot about these different neurological states that are associated with, all kinds of different religious experiences. Um, and, it can help inform us about the different spiritual significance and truth. Um, but we really still cannot explain everything. So, you can't really reduce spiritual experiences to temporal lobe epilepsy because epileptics experience hallucinations in different ways. And mystic experiences often, someone may only have a handful of those experiences in a lifetime as well. Um, and then some people may not have any at all. And there's just so many different things that, different components we really don't understand. So there's an interaction between the human brain's ability to think symbolically, to envision the future, and infer kind of hidden causes that allow for spiritual experiences and inquiries. And this is why we can have all these hypotheses about why mystical experiences happen, but we don't know for sure. So, moving on to our last section, which is about the genome and religiosity. If we go over to slide 25, there has been some research looking at twins. And, we do a lot of research in psychology where we'll have, either identical twins, non identical twins, twins raised in different environments, kind of to pick out what is genetic and what is not. Um, and so, we've got the statistic here that about 50% of the individual variation in human population with respect for religious interests seems to come from something genetic, so influenced by our genome. So there's the argument that religion is a natural consequence of the design of, modern human brains. That was definitely what we discussed in the very beginning of this chapter. And it is supported with that research from twin studies. So if we look at twins who are reared apart and twins who were raised together, um, and look at the standardized measures of kind of their religious beliefs, their religious interests, and even, how much they're participating in their activities in those religious beliefs, we do find that the genome affects about 50% of that. Studies have also looked at spiritual beliefs throughout the lifespan. So, from about the age of 5 in around kindergarten all the way through adulthood. And some of the questions that were asked were about what kinds of, say, biological and mental states that occur after death. Well, younger children were more likely than older children and adults to kind of attribute a wide variety of abilities to a mind even after death. So it was extremely rare to hear religious explanations or answers from these children. And this suggests that there are intuitions about an afterlife that are kind of driven by nature rather than nurture. And that these creation myths of parents adhered over pre existing intuitions regarding an afterlife. So what does this mean in a nutshell? Well, it seems to be that humans very often naturally have a predisposition to believe in an afterlife before they have a chance to really fully learn, religious background or even be exposed to religious background. So, in slide 26, just an extra piece of information. It just kind of talks about that a little bit more, how younger children, around age 5 to maybe around age 7, we start to see major changes in cognitive development around age 7 that covers so much ground. But those younger children are less likely to give those spiritual explanations when asked about life after death. Slide 27 further elaborates. So we've looked at fMRI research on this, and that there are some different brain networks in the mental ensemble that seem to affect this. And so when we look at religiosity, it really needs things like theory of mind, abstract semantics, memory retrieval ability that's pretty highly formed, the ability to mental time travel and form rich visual imagery. And so these are cognitively advanced enough that you need just a little bit more cognitive development to fully interact with them. All right, our last slide is slide 28. Religion is enduring. So when we think about the very beginning of this chapter and that site Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, it's over 11,000 years old. Humans have been practicing religion and spiritual ties for a very long time. And though there is a major push for agnostic and atheistic thinking that has become more mainstream, mostly because it's accepted now without people becoming outright murdered for it in many places of the world. Unfortunately, it's still not roundly accepted everywhere in the world, as you will hear in news stories every few months. But even then, religiosity on a whole is still continuously growing. And even if somebody does not identify with a religion, that doesn't mean that you don't have a belief system or things that are important or spiritual connections and ties that matter. I think this is a common misunderstanding, especially from those of us who are religious, who think that those who are possibly agnostic or atheist can't have any type of spiritual experience, which we know is incorrect. So religion is quite enduring, and that even as culture changes dramatically, as technology changes, religion has stayed around. Religion has not stayed exactly the same. It's constantly evolving in different ways. When we think about, say, the three major Abrahamic faiths, so Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they have all adapted to the changes in time. Judaism is not the same as it was 2,000 years ago. It is a different, ever forming religion. Christianity has greatly changed, especially over the past 500 years as Protestantism took off and the different branching offs of different sects within Christianity. And Islam has done much of the same thing when you think about the difference between Sufi, Shia, and Sunni Islam, and how it also is really grappling with how it identifies in a modern world. So, religions are constantly evolving to the here and now. And there's also, a lot of modern debate between science and religion. Are they completely incompatible? I would argue no. And there's, Stephen Jay Gould argues that science and religion constitute these two separate teaching authorities. and that they address these, non-overlapping sets of questions, with theories like the Big Bang. And that, but some also argue that they can be compatible rather than competitive processes. Um, so, when we think about something like the Big Bang, it's often used as evidence for, non religion. But then you'll also find people from different religious backgrounds saying, no, that's completely evidence that, a God was there to trigger it. So there's differences of an opinion on how science and religion can interact with one another. Um, and, when we think about like Stephen Hawking, his idea on the Big Bang was that time basically equaled zero and had a beginning. But prior to the Big Bang, time could be less than zero and thus undefined. And if, that was a correct assumption, then Stephen Jay Gould would say that the question of the first cause would fall outside of science. So we get into so much messy gray area, which for some people is obnoxious or terrifying, and then for others is so exciting to just talk about and think about the myriad ways that this could come about. So there are all kinds of differing opinions about religion and science, whether they're competing, whether they can come together, whether it can be both and neither, and differ based on the circumstance. Um, I will post a question about this in our discussion board for you all. Um, just based on what do you guys think? We are at a Jesuit Catholic university with over half of our student body being Catholic. And so I know there is stronger religiosity on campus, but even then we have a mixture of different religious experiences, even within our own classroom. And so I'm interested to hear what your guys' take is on this. And I hope that it has given you something to think about. Um, so, as just a parting message, my ultimate goal is to finish grading all papers by the end of this weekend. My husband's coming in tonight from Minnesota. He's going to be helping me out because I've just been so exhausted with everything from COVID. He's going to be helping me out with like cooking and all the stuff that I've just been struggling with so that I can really focus on finishing grading. If you need an extension on the final paper, please just let me know. That is in our syllabus now, and has been since spring break. So please keep that in mind. I also have a survey under this chapter, just checking in on you guys. So if you feel comfortable answering that, you are more than welcome to. Anyway, I hope you all are doing great. I hope you are doing better than Miss Baby Cat, who is still just absolutely terrified. She woke up from a nap and didn't know that there was another cat next to her, and she has been scared for the past 2 hours. So, anyway, say bye-bye, and I will see you all later.